how are you doing? You don't remember me? I'm Ava. Do you remember any of it? No? Really? Do you want me to remind you? Of course you do. It was about a month ago, I think, the day I got here. I was sitting all by myself in a corner of the playground, and you came over and said, "Hi, you're the new kid, Ava, right?" "Yep, that's me," I replied. "You want to play?" you asked. "Okay," I said, standing up. I followed you out of the playground into the forest, which you insisted was more fun to play in. We played hide and seek until we found her. Are you sure you still don't remember? "Ah!" she yelped. "It's okay, we're friends," you said, and she calmed down. She looked to be about maybe 10 years old with blonde hair, but she was only as tall as my waist. "I'm Ava, and this is my friend," I said, introducing me and you. "Who are you?" you asked. The girl looked left and right, checking to see if anyone was watching, and then looked back up at us. "I'm Tulip the fairy," she said, making us laugh. Tulip raised her eyebrows. "That's funny," you said, and the little girl slapped your leg and jumped into the air, where she flew. "What in the—" I said, as golden dust floated down from where the fairy hovered. "What? You stuttered. "I think what you're trying to say is sorry," Tulip said. Sorry," you repeated. "Tulip, don't be mean," said a fairy with a shock of red hair as she darted out from the trees. "Forgive my sister. She can be a little feisty," the red-haired fairy said, jumping up into the air where she too hovered. "I'm Rose," she said, shaking my hand. "What in the entire world is going on?" you said, voicing my exact thoughts. "Well, it seems like you two humans have, unfortunately, entered the enchanted forest," Rose explained. "Why is it unfortunate?" I asked, frowning. "To get out, you have to complete a quest," Tulip shouted. "Or," Rose said, "you can live peacefully here." "I need to get back home before dinner," you said. "What kind of quest would we have to do?" I asked. "Come to my house and we'll talk about it in the morning," Rose said. You and I looked up and we saw a few stars already blinking down on us. "Time works differently in the enchanted forest," Tulip replied to our confused looks. We followed the two fairy sisters to their home, where we ate dinner, and you somehow managed to hit your head at least 3 times on the low ceiling. We slept in beds that were a little bit too small, and when we woke up you complained about a sore back. "Maybe one of the fairies could help with that?" I said as we walked from the little pink guest room to the baby blue dining room. As soon as we entered the dining room, we knew something was wrong. "Tulip!" Rose screamed, flipping over the table in search for her sister. "What happened?" you asked, looking around the messy dining room. There were broken china plates and glass cups littering the floor, and 3 of the 4 chairs had been flipped over along with the table. "Tulip has been kidnapped," Rose sobbed, collapsing onto the ground. I patted her on the back, unsure what else to do. Suddenly, she jumped into the air. "This can be your quest! You can find my sister," Rose said. "For real?" you said, and we glanced at each other in horror. "Of course, I'll come with you, since you don't know your way around the enchanted forest," Rose said, as if that made everything perfectly normal. "But where do we even start?" I asked. "Well, we just look outside for some kind of clue," Rose said. The little red-haired fairy dashed out of the room, and you and me followed her a little more hesitantly. "Excuse me," Rose said, knocking on a tree. The tree turned around, revealing a face. "What?" it said. Did you happen to see someone kidnapping a blonde-haired fairy? Rose asked. They went that way, the tree said, pointing west with one of its branches. Thank you very much, Rose said, and she gestured for us to follow her. What? You said. Did that tree just talk? I asked, pointing at it. Of course it did, Rose said, hurrying forward eagerly. It's not like it's just some giant frozen organism that just happens to be important for all oxygen-breathing creatures, she said. The fairy laughed. Imagine that! You and I grinned at each other. About an hour later, after Rose's laughter had died down, the three of us came upon a cave. I gulped. What's down there? You asked, peering into the darkness. It looks spooky, I commented. I have no idea. Let's go, Rose said, marching into the cave. Wait, she might not even be in there, I said, grabbing Rose's shoulder. She is. See this fairy dust on the ground? She said, pointing at the golden dust glittering on the ground. But before we just barge in there, we need some sort of plan, you said. Here's one. I go in there and find out where Tulip is and come and get you two, and we get her out. How does that sound? Rose said, yanking her arm away from me. I mean, there's a lot that could go wrong there, I said, but Rose had already started marching into the cave. You and I hid in some bushes that weren't the most comfortable. Remember, that's how you got that scratch right there. No, not that one, that one. Of course you don't remember. We waited for the little fairy for a good 30 minutes. I have a bad feeling about this, you said. Should we go and try and find the police or whatever there is here? I asked, and you nodded. Just as we crawled out of the bush, Rose came running out of the mouth of the cave. She collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. Are you okay? You asked as the fairy stood up and brushed her dress off. Yeah, I'm fine now, Rose said. I found Tulip, but those evil elves that kidnapped her drove me out. Although I'm pretty sure they're not following me anymore. I sat down on a rock. What are we gonna do now? I asked. You shrugged. We're going back in, Rose said as if she was announcing a family picnic. I sighed and we followed the fairy cautiously into the cave.